Sure. My name is Naveed. I'm 3 years out of school. I did my undergrad at the University of Toronto in Canada, then went to Case Western Reserve for my dental school. Also did my residency at Case Western Reserve and been with Aspen for about 2 years and 8 months. I think this December will be about 3.
Nice. So you came to Aspen straight out of residency?
No, actually, I worked for another DSO, and then I started working for Aspen afterwards.
Nice. So I just want to give a brief kind of intro to what a DSO is, because what we've learned from doing these is that we kind of take for granted that everyone knows what a dental DSO is, and then we come to find out that everybody doesn't know.
Right.
So real quick, Dental DSO, it's a dental service organization, group of own. You have to go through many different channels and many different professionals to kind of help get the process facilitated, from real estate to loan officers to IT people and lawyers and accountants and marketing and supply vendors and business consultants and all of these other things that you did not go to dental school for. So basically what happens when you partner up with Aspen is, if you're a general dentist and you own an Aspen practice, you partner up with Aspen to help you with all of those things that have, everything to do with administrative work and nothing really to do with treating the patient. So anything that's non-clinical, Aspen helps the practice do all of that. And then the doctors can just focus on what they do best, which is treating patients. So that's kind of the draw for a dentist to own an Aspen practice. All of our practices are owned by general dentists. They are not owned by the corporation. Our specialists work as an employee of the practice owners. And so I just wanted to give that brief little intro, and we can jump right into the questions, because we had some folks pose questions even before the session started. So we'll get right into it. So the first question is, working as an endo, or an employee or an independent contractor? You are an employee. Why are we having so many issues today?
Okay, go. No, I can hear you now. It was breaking up for a second. Now go ahead.
Yeah, I am actually having internet issues myself. My internet is out. I'm on my
hotspot.
My hotspot, so it's kind of going in and out.
So I heard W-2 versus independent contractor. That's kind of what you heard, right? That's
correct.
what you said.
Mm-hmm.
So in Aspen, you're a W-2 employee, so the model is not independent contractor based. So there's really no option, and there's some benefits and there's some disadvantages. Benefit is that you get actual benefits, like health benefits, health saving accounts, a 401k, and matching after whenever that starts. And so those are some of the advantages. The disadvantage is that you can't really write off anything as a W-2 employee. You can't really wiggle around with the taxes. So those are, you gain something, you lose something.
Sure. And I'm pretty sure that's the reason why they asked the question, because everyone's thinking ahead to the tax benefits, right?
Right, exactly, yeah.
So let's talk about equipment, because that's always a big thing for endo. Does Aspen Dental provide you with a microscope?
Yes, and stands in every office.
Yep, and then you carry the optics, correct?
Yes, I have them in a little Pelican case.
Nice. Do you have use of a cone beam in your offices?
Certain offices have, more like the newer offices, but no, not every office has it. So to work in Aspen, you're pretty much CBCT free. So if you come from one of those residencies where every case you get a CBCT and you feel uncomfortable not having a CBCT in the case, then you're gonna have a hard time. But if you went to a residency where CBCT was just an adjunct, and they wanted you to rely on a PA and then do the CBCT as a sort of a additional um, radiographic method to diagnose and whatnot, then no, you'd be fine, you know. And then, but the offices that have it, you can do as much as you want. There's no charge or anything. You basically do what you like. And more offices are getting it now, but I would say probably like 10 to 20% of the offices that you'll be working will have CBCT.
Yeah. So let me clarify something on that. So all of the new offices that are being built with the CBCT in the office. The older offices are being retrofitted for them right now. We were supposed to have every single office in the Aspen Dental Network have a cone beam in office by the end of this year, but then COVID happened, and I don't need to tell everybody what that did to the world. So everything got kind of pushed back a little bit. So by the end of next year, every single office in the Aspen network will have a cone beam in office. So with that being said,
No.
you can, if you're someone that relies more heavily on that, you will have use of that in every office. So I think that's going to be really doctor specific. If you're more comfortable with it, and if you're, like yourself, if you're more comfortable to do it without it, then that's fine as well. But you'll have them in every office.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually. If you have
Yeah.
it, then that's, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, even better, right?
Yep.
Do you get to choose your own equipment and supplies, or are there certain preferred brands that Aspen works with?
No, my experience has been that I get whatever I want, you know, any equipment and any brand of, you know, files, you know, everything that you want, they'll provide. So in my case, you know, I haven't had any issues not being able to get what I want.
Yep, and I think that's pretty true for all the specialists across the board. The procurement team is really great, and they will get you anything you want. Of course, we have relationships with certain vendors. We're Henry Schein's biggest customer outside of the U.S. government, so we do have some preferred pricing with some of their brands. But if you want something else, like you said, Doc, you can pretty much get whatever you want. What do you travel with?
In terms of like what equipments I
Equipment,
travel
supplies,
with,
what do you travel? So I know
I
you
see.
travel with the microscope optics.
Yeah, so pretty much I travel with the microscope optics, my goggles, and my face shield, and a couple of like PPE supplies. And there are some extra boxes of extra supplies, so they're not the supplies that you use on a daily basis, but extras in case you run out, that I choose to carry in my car because my assistant, even though she has an SUV, she will have to put it on her back seat. So that's kind of what I have. So I would say 2, 3 medium-sized storage boxes, one of those like rolling storages with the wheels underneath them, and a microscope box.
Awesome. Now you mentioned your assistant. Just let everybody know kind of how it works with your dental assistant. If you get to pick your assistant, if someone picks them for you, do they travel with you, et cetera?
Well, they're hired by regional managers and whatnot. So, but you'd have a say if you don't like someone, you say, "Hey, I don't want this person," or if you know have certain preferences, you can definitely, you know, they want it to work for you. So there's really no problem there. But you know, you don't necessarily do the interview. I guess if you want to do it, you can do it too, but you don't have to. And yes, what was the second part? They do travel with
Yeah.
me.
So you have the same
Yeah, they
assistant
go.
that works with you at every office.
Yes, they have the same assistant. They go about half an hour before you and then set everything up, and um, they'll, you know, break everything down, and then you see them next day in the other office that you're going.
How many offices do you cover, Doc?
Right now, I'm doing 14 offices a month. So
Wow.
some of them I'm hitting 2 times a month, but yeah, so that's kind of what we're starting with here now in Atlanta.
Yeah. So how many days a month are you working?
4 days a week, so I think we're around 20 days a month.
Yep. So you would be considered full-time. In order to be full-time as a specialist with Aspen, you have to work at least 15 days per month or more. So anything less, you'd be considered part-time. And the farthest office that you travel to, how far is that from your home?
The farthest office without traffic is about an hour. So My
Oh,
my
not bad.
cutoff is around an hour and 5 minutes. So yeah, I know some other specialists, they travel with 2 hours, 2.5 hours and whatnot. But
Yep,
I found that for me to be able to do this, it only has to be an hour. And more than an hour, 5, 10 with the traffic, it gets really tiring for me. And
sure,
regardless of the kind of schedule they have, I usually don't like to go. So
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's really specific to the region, right? Like you mentioned, some specialists are traveling a little bit further because maybe
absolutely,
where they live, the offices are a little more spread out. So I think it really depends. Like
exactly.
where I live
Some
in New
travel
York
the night
City,
before,
everything
and
is close.
oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, some specialists travel the night before, sleep in hotels and whatnot too. So that's
Yep.
kind of
And
what I
if you
heard
need
they
to
do.
do that, Aspen will cover the expense. So if you have an office that's really far from your home that you're covering, let's say once a month, and you want to stay over, Aspen will cover the hotel cost for you. And that's obviously something that you would agree to beforehand. Um, and as far as the scheduling, I always get questions about like who does your scheduling? Do you need to be at a certain office a certain day of the month? Can you talk about the autonomy that you have over your schedule?
Yeah, so on my schedule, no one really tells me how to schedule. I just because of the amount of time I've been with the company, usually I make my own schedule and we go with that. And it's been working great. So I guess you do have autonomy, which which days you want to go to which office. That's really not something that someone's going to contest with you and tell you. People are going to try to have you more often in offices that there's demands, and that's natural. It's good for everybody. So the short answer is that no, you make your own schedule. You can take days off anytime you want. And you can't take less 10 days off. You probably have to tell someone. But let's say if you want to work not work a Monday, or not work Friday, those are, you know you have the autonomy to do so, without necessarily having to get permission from like a senior partner or something like that. Yeah.
Sure. Um, do you buy your own files and burrs?
No, every supply is provided by Aspen.
So now a few questions about different procedures. What type of procedures are you doing, and are you doing any surgeries?
So yes, I not because I recently moved. I don't do them yet, but yes, before I do every procedure that is in the scope of endodontics. So pretty much except intentional reimplantation, I usually do everything else from recon treatment, retreatment, non-surgical both, and then surgical treatments, and you know immaturity, 3 gen, epixification. You don't really come across those cases in Aspen networks, but if they come across, yes, I got all the equipments needed to do it. So
Awesome. Sorry, I'm just like clicking between screens so that I can see the questions that are coming in. So if I'm not
right.
looking right at you, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to go back and
No,
forth.
no, absolutely. You did good.
Um, oh, thanks. So as far as consults, are you doing your own consults? And as far as treatment planning, what autonomy do you have over the treatment planning? I think those kind of go into the same category. So,
Um, yes, I'm doing my own consults. Every case gets consulted. That's just a philosophy of mine that unless I know for a fact it needs a root canal, it doesn't get done. So no matter why it was referred, I have to confirm the chief complaint on every patient myself. And sometimes the chief complaint is not there, and then you rely on the information from when they came in, and by after working with the referring dentist, you realize which ones are good at diagnosis, which ones are not. So the ones that are really not good at diagnosis, you probably take a harder look at cases if they're not obvious root canals. But and as far as treatment plans, yeah, you got ultimate, you can do whatever you want. No one's gonna make you do a case or not. So, and then you start develop some relationship with the referring dentist, and you realize what they like and what they try to do. If let's say someone is referring things that you don't feel like it needs a root canal, you try to educate them. But at the end of the day, if you feel like, hey, this tooth, in your opinion, doesn't need a treatment, you won't do it. But if you feel like it does need a treatment, you say, hey, it does need treatment. So there's really, I guess the way I, conduct my operation, no one really says anything as far as like, hey, why didn't you not do this? But I've heard that, let's say if someone is not comfortable doing some, prophylactic root canals, then some of referring dentists may not like that. But I guess if you're a clinical, like evidence-based clinician, with common sense, I think you'd be fine with 95% of the referrers, and you all would be on the same page.
Sure. I think that's true in like any setting, right? Not just Aspen, no matter what kind of a
Absolutely,
dental
yeah,
practice you're working in. I always say if you take 10 dentists and put them in a room and show them the same x-ray, you'll get 11 different treatment plans. Everybody has an opinion on what
absolutely,
they
yeah.
think the best course of action is. But the nice thing that I always tell specialists or potential specialists is, in a traditional setting, let's say you work for like a private endo practice or something like that, if you have a discrepancy with the referring dentist, you have to call them, you have to email, you have to text. Like in your case,
Yeah,
most of the
they're there.
referrals are coming from the Aspen dentist, right? So you could just like walk down the hallway and say, hey, doc, come here, and then you can kind of
Absolutely.
talk it out.
I agree. I mean, having worked both in private practice and Aspen, I agree. That's definitely the case, so having them right there. And to be honest, like most general dentists at Aspen, like they're all receptive to what you say. They respect, the fact that you're a specialist and you have an opinion in the field, and you know, um, never had any resistance. Maybe like handful of time past
Yeah,
2-3 years.
good. That's good to hear. Um, I get some form of this question all the time, and it kind of seems appropriate with what we're talking about. Is there like a competitive hierarchy among other endodontists at Aspen to kind of like put stress on a new provider to perform or produce?
Not really. I don't feel that at all. I mean, you got your region that you go in, certain offices you go in, you don't really interact with anyone. So there's really no interaction for it to be any competition. I guess that's how I would put it. In terms of how much you produce a month, there are charts that you can see yourself compared to others, but it really doesn't mean much because certain areas are busier than others, certain areas are not. Providers are different. So no one. I guess the short answer again is no. There's no competition with another specialist.
Awesome. And I think too, with that question, it's always kind of that, I guess, misconception out there that like you work for a DSO, it's corporate dentistry, there's like pressure to produce a certain amount. But of all the specialists that I've worked with, I've never really heard that within the Aspen network. It's really up to you
I
as the
agree. There's no
provider.
pressure. Yeah. I mean, if there's no unless like let's say if you are if you take like 3 hours per case and you've been working for a while and you still take 3 hours per case, then you may not fit that model. So there may be pressure for you to like, maybe do faster, or if you do two-step treatment on every case, so those are some. But if you're more like, the general endodontist, population now, I think there won't be any issues, as far as like, has someone telling you, oh, you should do more or not, for me, it has never been any pressure to do things a certain way or not.
Cool. We have a shout out to Case Western in the chat box. One of the residents is hopping
Oh,
on from Case.
oh, nice.
Um, yeah. So, okay. Does board certification affect your compensation? I can answer that. The answer is no.
I wish.
All of our specialists. Yeah. Are you board certified?
Yes, I just
Oh, okay. Yeah.
as of March.
So it's just like a
So
nice plaque on the wall.
yeah, I mean, it really doesn't do much. Most of my referrers don't even know. Like, it's not something I really share with them.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
nice though. It's a nice accomplishment.
yeah, it's more
But
like
yeah,
for personal. It's not
yeah,
necessarily doesn't really affect any of the. At least in Aspen, I think private practice it does.
yeah. But the specialists at Aspen make, on average, more than the national average outside of Aspen every year. So I guess, if that's any consolation for you. Um, okay. That's a good question, whoever posted that one, but I'm going to save that one for later. That's a
Okay.
good one to end with. So someone is asking if providers pay a percentage of supplies, files, etc. I don't know, maybe you hopped on late, but we did answer that already. The endodontists do not pay for any of their supplies. All of the supplies get paid for by Aspen. So no, you will not be paying for them, but you can order whatever you want.
Yes.
Yep. How many RCTs did you average your first year practicing on a daily basis, and how many are you doing now?
Uh, so first year out, probably it depends on how your schedule is busy or not. So you could do like 12 treatments a day, but if you're not really having 12 cases scheduled for you, then you can't really do it. I guess at the beginning I was around more like 6, 7 per day, and so that was right at the beginning, like first year, and then later on, now I can. I mean, if let's say an office is really busy, and then we start from like 7 to like going to 7, I can do like 11, 12 treatments a day, but it depends on the day, depends on if you have that schedule. But definitely I've gotten faster, a lot faster. And after working with an assistant, things have gotten a lot more like automatic. So I think, you grow exponentially with time, especially after you start working, because it's just so different than school. In school, I used to do 3 and 4. Like,
Right.
the case guy probably knows.
Yeah.
Right,
I
right,
know.
right.
And especially now with the COVID situation, a lot of the residencies are even taking less
Yeah,
patients. I spoke to someone the other day, they're only allowed one patient in the morning and one in the
I
afternoon.
know.
That's it.
Absolutely. I do have friends that they're just one a day. And I mean, coming back after COVID, the stats I gave was, you know, pre-COVID. After COVID, it took a while for us to get back to the same numbers, because we would have scheduled like an extra half an hour to like, break down and disinfect and things of that nature. And but now we're back at it. I had a little COVID protocol that I would drape my microscope and put the patient inside this little drape, and like poke holes in it and work through that. So that would take like 10 minutes to set up. So, but now those being gone, just doing the N95 and face shields and goggles, um, we're back at same like pre-COVID times. So
Yeah. During the COVID situation, when you first came back, did you feel that Aspen was providing you with the proper, PPE and everything that you needed?
oh yeah, PPE wise, I mean, Aspen probably you're flooded with PPE compared to working my private practice job. So yeah, in those cases, it was great. Yeah,
Yep. As I mentioned before, we are Henry Schein's biggest customer outside of the US government, so they'll make sure we have our stuff.
yeah,
That's
that's true.
one of the benefits of working in a big network, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Um,
definitely true. Yeah.
yeah. So a question about, so if someone's asking about fee schedules, I can definitely get that for you. We can talk about that after. Because that's going to also vary by region. Like, we try to keep our fees in line with what the region is dictating. Obviously, a fee for a procedure where I live in New York City is going to be a lot different than a fee for a procedure in, Eastern Iowa.
True.
So I can get that for you. Whoever's asking that question, I'll get that for you. I know who you are. But can you give us an idea of, like, so that someone was asking average cost of a molar, anterior RCT, PM?
Okay. So average cost, I mean, I don't have that. I think I don't have it on top of my head. Like they never gave us any stats as far as that, but I think average cost, it would be somewhere around 850 to 900. I think that's probably where you'll be like hovering around that, maybe maybe a little more, but not definitely not less. So I
Yeah.
would say it would be a nice mix. You'd have cases like 700, 6. And now, I mean, here in the new region, there's some terrible insurances that I'm about to like weed out and sort of get off that train. Um, there's some like 680, 690. So, for example, today I did an anterior for like 570. So you do see those as well sometimes, but there are a lot of good cases too with higher fees, and I guess it's not terrible. and if you live in a big city, it's definitely not going to be compared with the private practice if you live in a big city, but it's not bad enough that you like hate yourself for doing it. You know,
Yeah.
you won't be to a point where you say, hey man, I can't believe I have to do this case. It's a really like tough case, and barely you feel those instances.
Do you see a lot of cash pay?
So Aspen model has a lot of fee for service. I don't know the breakdown. I think around like 20-25%. I think, if I'm wrong, correct me. But yeah, so you do have a lot of, because we offer financing. There's a good
Yep.
20-25% fee for service fees that come in.
And again, that varies a lot by region, but
Absolutely,
um,
region, yeah,
yep.
100% has to do with it.
Our all of our Aspen offices, guys, just so you know, we do not take Medicaid or Medicare. We will take any private insurance or any cash pay or self-pay. So I know you're saying you get some insurances that reimburse a low fee, but at least you're not doing the Medicaid and
Hmm.
Medicare fees, because then you'd
Well,
really be running out the door.
I wouldn't be working for Aspen at that point.
Exactly. Nobody would, which is why we don't take them. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so let's see. Do you have options to use things such as nitrous oxide?
Certain offices have them. If they have them, yes, absolutely. And if you have the certain states, you have to have the license for it. Yeah, but not all offices will be having them, and that's not something you want to carry around. So I guess if it depends, subject to availability, I guess.
Do you see pediatric patients? I love that question.
Not a lot, not as much as I used to in dental school and residency. So yeah, I guess once a month, maybe, if any. So in my practice, they just don't come through. I think any pediatric patient I see, I try to educate them as to like, hey, you're probably better off, going to a pediatric dentist. But if they come in, I'll see them. I never turn anyone away, unless it's actually physically not able, the patient's not willing to sit, or there's some behavioral issues. I try my best to see them.
Yeah, and that's very specific to the clinician. You can choose not to, or,
Yeah, you can choose not to. Exactly. Yeah.
that's why I love that question, because I've done a bunch of these, and especially with the oral surgeons, most of the answers I get when I ask that question, they're like, no.
Yeah,
So
I
you
guess it
have,
depends. Like,
yeah, you have the
yeah,
choice. It's whatever
absolutely.
you're
Yeah.
comfortable. But
Yeah.
honestly, I mean, I'm no picnic in the dentist chair either. So I think some kids are probably better than adults.
Oh yeah, you'll be surprised.
Yeah, I
19
know.
year olds
I
better than a
know.
grown man.
I know. Um, all right. So, how often are you required to COVID test? I'm assuming that they mean you yourself. Are you getting tested?
Through the company, none. I haven't really had any tests through the company. Personally, yes. Anytime I'm about to go visit my parents, I self-test, I guess.
Nice.
Um,
Um, how many operatories are you working out of?
one.
So in the case of a post-procedure emergency or a follow-up, who is handling that if you're traveling to different offices?
So most of the time, if that happens, first of all, knowing that you're not going to be in the office when the patient comes back, you do things to ensure that they know what to do, like step by step, as far as like, how they escalate to the next level, if they need to take a medication, call in, this and that. But most of the time, the referring dentists are the ones who are going to take care of that. And you'll be in good terms with them. They'll call you if they need you. If not, then they'll handle it. And if, let's say, you need to see them, they'll come to a different office. If you absolutely have to see them, then they'll come to a different office that you're going close to that area. Usually, patients are fine with that.
Yep. How is sterilization handled if you're moving from office to office?
So my assistant does all the sterilization, and then when the equipment is sterilized and the instruments are sterilized, she takes them in her cart and to the next office, and then same thing. So usually, at the end of the day, she has around like an hour of sterilization to do. So You don't handle any of that sterilization, I guess. Yeah.
And some of my specialists are opting for cassettes. So if that's something that, would make it easier for you to carry the instruments, which I would assume it would, that's something that Aspen can get for you as well.
Yeah.
So does Aspen offer CEs? I'll let you answer and then I'll give my answer.
Aspen offers Cs. Yeah, they do offer Cs. It's not that's a whole lot, but they do offer Cs, and it's usually Dr. Bruder. So I've been to his lectures during residency a couple times. So, but they do offer CE. It's not going to be like AAE level CE. It's more geared toward general dentistry, endodontics. But once a year, before COVID, you had the retreats that you used to go to, those like 2 days conferences. Then
Yep.
in
In
there, we had
Chicago?
some, yeah, the one in
Yep.
Chicago, one in Miami we went. So those, we had some endo specific CE, like CVCT related stuff. So I guess they're maybe like once or twice a year. That's from my experience.
So Aspen does have a full network of CE courses. You're right, with the specialists, sometimes it might be more geared toward general dentistry, but if you, as a specialist, have something that you want to learn more about or a course that you want to participate in, Aspen has been known to kind of pitch in with half the cost or whatever the case is to help facilitate it, because we never want our doctors to, not want to learn and further their knowledge base. But as far as like what the requirements are for you for CEs, you can get everything from Aspen. If you never wanted to look outside the Aspen network, you don't really have to. And during COVID, we're actually offering free CEs to anyone in the dental industry. You don't even have to work for Aspen. So I will send you guys all that link as well when I send you the follow-up email from this call, because you can spread that around to any doctor or specialist and they can participate in that for free right now. What percentage of teeth being treated would you say is previously initiated versus starting yourself? So I guess, primary and then retreats. What are you doing?
Well, no, previously initiated, like someone started it and then they weren't able to finish it. That's what they said. I guess not a whole lot. After maybe the beginning when you start working, you see them often, but then after a while, once they, if your work is good and you earn the respect of the referring dentist, they don't even attempt anymore, root canals. I think my experience has been, even those who were doing root canals, once they see how efficient and patients love it, and they can have a more productive day themselves, they usually just start referring things out. So I don't see too many like in dental school. I used to see, starting residency, a lot of mishaps that would come back and try to we had to correct. But Aspen, no, most of the teeth, they haven't been open at all. So a lot less than in my private practice job. I think private practice dentists have more times in their hand. They attempt a lot more root canals than general Aspen dentists.
Yeah. And, what I always tell people is I worked for Patterson before this. So, when I would work with my customers, I would ask them what your biggest headache is, what's your biggest worry, what keeps you up at night. And all the specialists would say the same thing. It would be getting patients in the chair, because the referral base is not what it used to be. Like you said, a lot of the general dentists are trying to do these procedures themselves. Technology has advanced so that they can do those things, and they don't want to refer out. But in the Aspen kind of platform, you as the specialist are working for the general dentist, so they're also making a percentage on what procedures you're doing in their office. So like you said, when they kind of come to the realization that, hey, I can take 2 hours to do this root canal, or I can have you do it, and I can make some of that money, and I can also be seeing 4 new patients in that time frame and doing other things that make me money, like restorative work, you kind of have them referring to you a little bit more than I think, on the outside, when they're kind of trying to hoard their patients and keep them in their own chair, because they're making money too. Pulpotomy from
Well,
GP.
let
How
me
often are you
inject
doing?
this here though. Well, so since most of the audience may not have any work experience, that being said, private practice is still if you're in the right place, in the right market, you'll have, you know, you have plenty of success there as well. So it's not that you're not going to have, because there's a misnomer that, you know, you don't really see a lot of patients in private practice, but I think both ways. I just want the residents to know that, no, it really depends on, it's not a, you know, black and white situation. Depending on which DSO you go or which private practice you go, it could be either way. So that's just something I wanted to
Yeah.
inject.
Oh, I appreciate that. You're in the office, you see it, I don't, right? So, um, do you ever do lunch and learns or trainings with your office staff and the general dentist?
Maybe at the beginning, like right now, I moved to a new city. I do, not necessarily lunch and learn, just, you know, just a lot of training. You know, everybody works for the same company. You feel like you're all like employees. So, I don't necessarily have to take him out to do anything. Like you said, everyone's got, you know, everyone's interest is aligned. So you don't really have to go out of your way trying to let them know if someone is really not, you know, following protocol or not really cooperating. Then you let their, you know, managers know, and that gets taken care of. So I guess my answer is that no, I don't really do much, but you develop relationships with them, and you don't really need to necessarily book a time to do anything with them. You just kind of, every time you're in their office, you know, you talk to them, and you, afterwards with a text call, you take care of their needs, and you know, you develop some loyalty there, you know.
Sure. And you develop a relationship with them over time, right? You know
Absolutely,
what
yeah.
they expect of you, they know what you expect of them, and
Yeah, and then after a while, if you're working for a while, then it becomes like automatic. Like I really don't have to train anyone after like maybe like 3 times or 4 times you're in their office, you know,
sure.
becomes, you know.
Yep. Would you recommend Aspen to someone right out of residency?
Yeah, I do recommend Aspen, you know. It's not for everyone though. So you have to know if yourself, I guess, you know. But is it, you know, a, you know, a bad company? No. You know, it's one of the better companies that I work for, because I've worked for a couple of DSOs. Um, but it has to be for the right person, and you got to be the, you know, you definitely have to be an easygoing person to go around offices, and um, you have to be comfortable, you know, not being necessarily in the in the endo setting, and you're doing root canals. So, um, but yeah, I guess putting everything together, pros and cons, yes, I recommend it.
Um, why did you choose Aspen over your previous DSO position?
So I've always been someone who does a lot of root canals. So I really want to be somewhere that can provide me a lot of root canals, and the previous DSOs weren't able to do that. So I mean, I'll be honest, I chose Aspen out of, I guess, desperation. You know, I didn't know any of this stuff that I'm telling you guys. So it was basically the only gig in town that could offer me the volume of cases that I wanted. That's why I signed up with Aspen. But that's the honest truth. So now, but then when I actually started, you know, and my perception definitely changed, because you know, Aspen doesn't have the best reputation in the dental community. You know, I don't know if you know, Melissa, but you know, from coming from
You.
not from outside Aspen, there, you know, there's a lot of hesitation and a lot of barriers, people. But once you actually get in and you get to know the business model and a lot of things, you know, then you realize a lot of those perceptions were not correct. Some of them were correct, you know. But that's kind of my story of how I joined Aspen.
Do you think that that's true for like, you know, DSOs and quote unquote corporate dentistry in general?
Like, do they have
As
a
far
bad
as having the
reputation, you mean, or like?
reputation? A
Yeah, I
bad
mean,
reputation.
there's I guess yes, overall yes, you know. So it's not, some of it is not necessarily because of the brand, it's more because of the, it's just model, you know. But I guess there's, you know, different degrees of DSOs. So I guess the answer is yes. Yeah, there's, it's different. You know.
Um, how did your, like people that you were in residency with, or your chief, your co-residents, how did they react to your decision to work for a DSO?
They really didn't, they knew that, they, I guess from like knowing me and my situation, they knew that that's the route I'm going to be going. So they weren't really surprised. Okay. So, I get that, there was really no like significant reaction that I can speak about, um, I had a lot of international co-residents, so a lot of them weren't really into job searching. They didn't really have a lot of interest into looking into different kinds of jobs. Some of them went back to their countries. Some of them stayed, found the first job they had, and they started working. So, yeah, I didn't really have an experience that was significant enough for me to talk about.
Was
Unfortunately.
the interview process with Aspen, do you feel like it was a good experience? And then afterward, did it take you longer to get started with credentialing? Because some people have the misconception of, oh, you're working for a corporate dentistry. You have to go through more red tape.
Mhm. No, the credentialing took same amount as any other place that I've worked took. If anything, maybe a little bit faster because we have a pretty robust department, I think. Um, so as far as time, no, it was quicker. Um, Interview process, I just interviewed one of the market that I worked. There was one owner that owned almost all the offices, so I just did a interview with him, and I didn't accept the job at the time, so I just interviewed and left. And then I had another job that I wasn't happy with, so I just called him like, hey, you still want someone? And he's like, yeah, sure. Then I just went back. So I know another friend. I've referred a few friends, and they went to Syracuse for an interview. But I guess it depends on since you're an employee of the owner and not necessarily Aspen Dental, then mine was just meeting with the owner for like half an hour, not necessarily going to Syracuse. But I know that was back in the day, so now our protocols may have changed. So, but interview was very just like any other job, very like casual, laid back, nothing intense.
That depends on the
Yeah,
practice owner too, like you said, because you're working for the practice owner. So some are more intense and some are less intense.
yeah, true.
Yep. Someone's asking about malpractice insurance, if Aspen covers it.
Yes.
Yep. Well, we cover up to $3,000 for our endos, and that will be retroactive if you're part-time. So if you're not working full-time, then it's prorated for part-time. And then if you have, most residents, 3,000 a year will cover. If you're a doctor that's been working for a while and you have some dings on your license, sometimes you may have to cover a little bit over that 3,000.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it in a long time. I don't know if I'm paying any more than the 3,000 or not.
Probably not.
That's
Most
something I'm
people
about to go
aren't.
check. Yeah.
I just reminded you of it, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that the earning potential working at Aspen is greater than working in, let's say, a private practice setting?
That I mean, yes and no. So it depends on the kind of person you are, like your own earning potential. So if you are a ambition person, you may do well in both settings. On average, overall, like for like across the board, I think yes, across the board, like comparing like 10 private practice jobs with 10 markets of Aspen Dental, yes, I think the earning potential is higher. But again, it depends on you know the market that you are in, depends on how good your assistant is, depending on yourself and how comfortable you are. And but yes, the potential, I think, overall is earning potential more than private practice. I agree.
Yeah. When we do when we run the stats every year, the endos in the Aspen network always do make a little more than the national average. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's a big jump, guys, from like your first year out of residency to what you're going to make year 2 and 3, because, Doc, like you said, you're slower when you first start. And then as you get more efficient, you get faster, and then you can produce more because, if you're cutting down a few minutes every patient, you can see another patient at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's getting dark where you are, and I know you pulled over to do this with us. I want to be respectful of your time. So I'm going to finish
Thank you.
off with my last two questions that I always finish with. The first one is, what do you like least about working for Aspen?
Okay. Let me
Truth.
think about that because there are a few things, but let me think of like one thing that really bothers me, for example. I guess travel is definitely not it. I'm gonna slowly weed out the ones that are the travel. If you're okay with driving, I guess, which I am totally okay with driving. I love that commute. So that's not it. Assistant becomes no issue after you've trained your assistant, and they're good ones. They're, they you take care of them. They'll take care of you. They'll show up always on time, early. They'll set everything up. I think then it comes down to like patients. I think patients are great. If anything, they're low maintenance compared to private practice. Um, I would say having to go to like working in so many different facilities and not all of them being modern, and some of them are older offices, and some offices, oral surgeons work in the same room and then everyone else works in the same room. So, you have to like kind of reset everything. I guess that's one of the main parts that gets annoying. That, you know, that's one thing you have to be comfortable with. If you're someone who gets flustered after like, if you're, one of your equipment moves from one side to another, then this is not the right, you know, job for you. So you have to
Yep.
be very comfortable with that, in order to be able to not get frustrated, I guess. You know, I would say that's probably one thing. Having like 14 different work environments in a month, that's kind of 14 offices which I go to. And some of them not the same as others. Like today, the X-ray had kept moving, and it's just so annoying because I had to have the patient hold it, and I have a new assistant who's not really great at taking
You
X-rays
mean
yet.
it's not supposed to move down the face as you take the X-ray? No. All right.
No, that's a Panorex. That's
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. So then the last question, what do you like the best? What do you like the
okay.
best about working for Aspen? Give me like your one or two top things.
Top things. Okay. Um, because the top things is that you're basically you don't answer like after like a while, and when you've developed that rapport with your referring dentist and the owners, you don't really answer to anyone. You feel like you're on your own and you run your own thing. You don't really have anyone giving you any hard time. For example, I work with a senior partner in private practice, and there's no, whether you like it or not, there's going to be clash. There's only two people there. Here, you're by yourself. It's hard at the beginning, but later on, it actually becomes a luxury because you don't really have to interact with anyone if don't want to. So that's one thing, I guess. And I guess the second thing is that Aspen, our model attracts a lot of people who haven't been to dentists for a while. So I guess the volume of cases that you get, I guess that's one thing that I like the most about Aspen. Yeah.
All right, good. Good answer.
Cool.
So
Did
that's
I
it. I will
pass
let you
or
get home. Yeah, you passed. You got an A.
what?
But wait, the funny thing is I just had to say this because every single one of these that I do, I ask those questions, and the number one answer, always, what people hate is the travel. And that is the first thing that you
Really?
said was not the answer. You're the first one.
Really? No, I guess
So
I
you
mean
you win
it,
the
it really
prize.
depends on. Yeah, no, I got a system when I'm driving, and I enjoy the time. It's like my
Yeah,
own sanctuary in the car.
downtime.
You know.
Yep. So
Yeah,
I'll let
yeah.
you get home. I really, really appreciate you doing this. I'm so sorry you
No
had to
problem.
pull
No, no, not
over
at
and be
all.
in your car
And
for an extra hour.
if the residents, and I have an Instagram account, doctor.navi.endo. If any of the residents want to come and like ask me like questions privately there, I'll be happy to answer. I usually do that. The
Awesome.
people reach out. So,
Thank you so
yep,
much. We appreciate
no
that.
problem.
All
All
right,
right,
guys. Thanks for hopping on with us. Everybody have a good night.
cool. Thanks,
Bye.
Vanessa. Bye bye.